Hi, what's up, guys? Today is April 10th, and what I'm going to be doing today is basically just look at my trades I took in this funded challenge since I basically just lost the challenge. Look at what I did right, what I did wrong, see ways I can improve. Basically, this video is just going to be uncut, me just talking, yapping about what I think I did right, what I think I did wrong, so I can learn from my mistakes and fix it for my next funded challenge. So, why don't we just get straight into it? So looking at the first trade that I took in this funded challenge, I ended up losing $675, which is actually really a lot for my first trade. Uh, Keeping in mind I had 7 hours and 7.33 hours of sleep, which is around like 7 hours and 20 minutes. Which is actually fairly good. My target was 1.5 R, which honestly, for the funded challenge isn't bad. I just hope that I could get it higher in the future. But as a starting trader and basically just like a beginner, it's not that bad though. I did lose, so we'll just jump into the trades and see where I went wrong. So looking at NQ, right, we can see this model is basically a forever model. We can see manipulation right here, change in state right here, inverse fair value gap right here for our bearish side, and sell side liquidity from here, here, and here being placed. Alright, so looking at where I entered, I basically entered right after the change in state, hoping excuse me, hoping that the market would continue trending downwards violently or basically aggressively all the way down to the third sell side liquidity, because this one's a sell side liquidity that I didn't mark, and just trail down from there. Looking at the market, we can end up seeing that after it hit sells to the change in the state, end up rebounding back, retesting inverse fair value gap, then rejecting it and trending back down past this change in state, hitting the first sell side liquidity and going to buy side liquidity. So looking at this market, we can basically see that the volume was not that much. We know that like recently the volume has been very crazy because of all these Trump tariffs and stuff like that. But for this trade specifically, there was probably no news that heavily impacted the markets. We can probably see some candles ranging around like 20s. Oh, actually, like, yeah, 20, 30s, but it's not as crazy as what we are seeing recently. So looking at this, what I think I did a mistake on is placing my order too early, market order too early. I should have waited for it to pass the change in state and retest back to the change in state or the inverse fair value gap, depending on how far it went past the change in state. Secondly, I probably should have put this into micros instead of minis so I could have runners. Basically, I would have some at sell side liquidity and have some at the last sell side liquidity that I was targeting. It's just a way to break even just in case the trade didn't go well, and just a good habit to work on. Mm, let's also see what else. I think those are the two main things that I could have worked on, mainly because we can see how my stop loss was basically at the tip of the inverse fair value gap. If I had bought there where my stop loss is or slightly lower, then my stop loss could have been above the previous high, not above the candle wick, but just the previous high, or at the fair value gap, the top of the fair value gap. And also looking at the larger time frame, from what I see, we basically had a strong trend down. This is probably the 5 hour, 6, and then 7. Let's look. Oh shit. Let's look really quick. So yeah, I basically bought here. We can see how there's strong direction trending downwards after the 1 hour fair value gap, and retesting this fair value gap, probably the blue. So my daily bias is probably looking correct, which is not that bad. I think the main thing I could have just worked on is my timing into the market. And yeah, so let's see what else I had. Trailed TPSL, accepted the loss, and wanted to send. Yeah. So honestly, this trade wasn't that bad. I think you could technically say this was a good loser because I've basically followed all my game plan and ideas. But something I really could improve on is just my placement into the market. Basically, when it retests, change state, or inverse fair value gap, not when it first passes or change in this state. March 21st. Let's see if I have one. 21st, do I not? Oh, I guess I didn't journal that day. All right, moving on. Let's see my. Let's just go to the losses. I think the losses are probably where I need to look into more. If it was correct, it probably was me trusting my game plan initially. If I just look at the comments, just good trade, got lucky. Actually, let's just look at this really quick. All right, so this is basically just a forever model. I end up got lucky because when I entered, it basically just exploded upwards, probably based off news or just a crazy like volume afterwards. But it was looking like it was gonna go like that because we can see it's trending bullish with it. Was it? Let's see, retesting the inverse fair value gap and then making an inverse fair value gap that was bearish and just exploding afterwards. So this trade wasn't that bad. I did end up getting a 1 standard deviation. If I'm correct, later on in this market, it did hit the 2 and 2.5. But with this trade is just perfect. I think my R was actually really high on this one also. Yeah, 2.7 R. I'm moving on. Uh, this is my third trade. So I did not mark off the information for this third trade. I did not even place sell side liquidity or buy side liquidities. But looking at this market, I was basically just aiming for a change of the state. Sorry, forever model. We can see how I was looking for manipulation right here. Once it passed, I ended up buying instead of waiting for the market to close. We can see inverse fair value gap that I was using. I think it was this one. We saw it make an inverse because I think I was just panicking and trading right away and aiming for 2 standard deviations. I probably had it, which was from either this to this or here to here. Market did end up hitting it. Um, I don't know what I'm doing with this buy side liquidity, but I'm confident I definitely got better with placing buy side liquidity. And yeah, I think if I learned enough about fair value gaps and inverse fair value gaps, I probably would have taken this trade at the point 0.5 or middle of this fair value gap, taking that long and basically recouping my loss. But I ended up not doing that, probably because lack of experience or didn't learn enough yet. We can see my daily bias was also correct. We can see how we've been trending bullish the whole uh, basically whole session. Asian session and London session we can see here. But yeah, this is probably the trade. I should have marked out the manipulation, changes state, inverse fair value gap, just so I can look at this trade and understand it easier. I think looking at this, what I can improve on is just timing again. Wait for that retest in that inverse fair value gap that I was looking for, or the change in state, or also make sure this candle closes. Because since the candle didn't close and I placed my trade early, that just means that I was impatient and basically just had FOMO, fear of missing out, and missing out this trade. And what resulted is me losing, let's see how much, losing $550, especially with this funded challenge in which our maximum we can lose is 2,000. This was kind of risky. Again, I don't know why I did not switch to micros throughout this first challenge, but that's something I should have done. Same thing right here. Wait for confirmations and be patient for the market to close until I get the conviction I need to place a trade. All right, number 4. Right here. Okay. All right. Well, looking at this, it's just FOMO again. I basically just lost a trade, which was the previous trade, and then thought, oh, it's actually going bearish, and I end up placing an order, me thinking that this was change in state and probably like an inverse fair value gap here, which there isn't even one. Yeah, I definitely was just panicking that day and just wanted to make money. Actually, I think this was day 3, if I'm correct, and this was last night before I started making these trades. I ended up doing the brownie challenge. Basically, it's day 3. You should check it out. Um, if it's basically if I finish 3.5 brownies that are from Subway in 45 minutes, I earn $400. Ended up throwing up. So yeah, but I did win. But yeah, this is basically just FOMO and just trying like trying to recoup my loss, because you can see how after I lost, I basically just took a short right away because I was like, probably in my head, I was like, oh, I have the wrong daily bias in direction where the market wants to go, and end up losing more money. I think this was probably $1,000 loss total that day, right? Yeah, basically $1,000. Oh, yeah. Uh, the fifth one. So my fourth loss. Wait, let's see really quick. Oh, so this one was the correct one that I had, but this was my first one. So looking at my first one again, it's also just timing. I do have a problem with timing, I guess. So we can see how there's a lot of fair value gaps that I drew. Looking at it, my daily bias is bearish, as I can see. It's also in a 4 hour, I think. That's why this whole area is red. Fair value gap. We can see how these fair value gaps are green, and I put ignore, basically just for me to ignore it. This discount fair value gap was probably just an area where I can see to short the market. Also, this one right here. I end up shorting kind of early, hit stop. Let's see why short entered. I probably, yeah, I think it's FOMO also. I think I after seeing this candle right here of it topping a wick and rejecting this bullish, aggressive bullish candle, I took the short expecting it just to trend down right away. It ended up going up a little bit more, probably for the manipulation right here or right here, and trend downwards right here. This is basically a forever model also. I end up using fair value gaps to get an early entry. We can see right here, change the state, inverse fair value gap right here, manipulation right here or right here, potentially a SMT right here or right here. I have no clue. And just TP all the way down here. If you look at the standard deviation for right here, I don't know. I did not mark it down, but that's just for the forever model. I probably would just put it as sell side liquidity, because you probably can't make over 1,500. I think this would be over 1,500 in one trade for the top step funding challenge. Yeah, so looking at this was basically just poor timing. I did not have enough conviction in the market. I thought after I hit the discount fair value gap, it'll probably just reject right away. But I should have waited it to retest the fair value gap right above it, just to get that enough confirmation that is actually heading downwards. But we can see the second trade, I actually did wait for that and end up getting a good profit, or basically just recouping the loss also that I made, which was 400. I guess what I could have done here was extend my stop loss, but I think that's more on a riskier end, especially again, I can't lose that much money because this is a top step account. Like, yeah. Yeah, I think that would have been too risky. What I should have done, again, micros is probably going to be the key biggest factor into all these losses, and what I should have done initially at the start of this challenge. And the second thing is have the right timing, patient, and conviction in the market that you need before entering a trade. Okay, I think I had 2 more losses after that. This was the one we just looked. This one's actually supposed to be a down. All right, there you go. All right, so I end up losing 1,260. If I'm correct, this one was based off slippage. Yeah. Okay, this is slippage. Basically, for some reason, TradingView and Trade were basically showing different prices. The candles were completely different. It said I ended up placing an order right here. We can even see that TradingView doesn't even have the candle hitting right there, and the market somehow hits the daily limit that I can lose in the market right at 84 17,884 right here, when market doesn't even hit that. So this was just slippage. We can also see how my basically my target for this was correct. I was basically just aiming for this giant fair value gap for it just to rebalance after hitting the three fair value gaps up here. I think it was a 15-hour and 4-hour after this initial boost, which I think was from one of the tariff news. I forgot which one it was. Yeah, I forgot. But yeah, this is just slippage. I had the right vision. I waited for the change in state to pass. I ended up not waiting for a retest. I think because this was partly the forever model and fair value gap model that I have. The two models that I'm basically only using to place trades. We can see how my target's right here because this is a huge fair value gap. Zero point 0.5 or half of it in the middle is right here. Change state was basically right next to it. So this was a forever model and basically a fair value gap model. So this was maximum conviction that I need. I just basically got unlucky. And if I correct, this trade would have been around $4,000 to $6,000. End up hitting 1.2. If this didn't hit, I would have passed the funded challenge. But there's gonna be uncertainty in the market, and sometimes like stuff doesn't go your way. So it's just a loss you have to accept randomness and move on from there. So the last trade that ended up making me lose my funded challenge is this one. We can see how I lost $739 to 735, excluding commissions, and basically had me hitting my maximum drawdown that I had. Okay, looking at this, I think I did a recap on this yesterday, or actually I did do a recap on this yesterday, but I'll just give a quick recap again. You can check my previous video for the recap. I think I had a good idea and a good learning experience from it. Basically, what this was a good loss. I think like 1/3 or 1/4 of these losses were good losses. The rest were just out of FOMO or just entries that were too early. But this one was a basically perfect entry, just aiming for sell side liquidity. But the market didn't follow through, and it ended up following through later on in the day. But at the current moment, after pass or retested change of state and inverse fair value gap started trending downwards, it basically just didn't follow through. Ended up having to break buy side liquidity and then miss this and hit this second buy side liquidity, then tanking all the way down to I think this sell side liquidity right afterwards. But yeah, this is basically all my losses that I have this day or this challenge specifically. Um, if you guys have any comments, just leave it down below. I went really quick on this, so hopefully you guys aren't confused and you guys understand what I'm doing. But basically, you can see here I have two trading edges. My forever model, my fair value gaps. These are just my two models that I'm going to be using to trade the markets. And maybe I'll add more in the future, but these two are the ones that I'm working on and building a strong conviction so when I see it, I can just place a trade. So thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you liked anything or have any ideas of what I should do. Yeah, thank you for watching.